Hello and welcome into the KE Report. Chad and Corey here, getting an update from Guanajuato Silver, traded on the TSXV under the ticker GSVR and on the OTCQX under the ticker GSVRF. And we're joined today with the CEO of Guanajuato Silver, James Anderson. And James, always good to get you on the show to get an update. And kind of a little different discussion today. We were talking off mic just about some of the macro trends in the metals. Obviously, as we record this today, we are seeing gold breaking out to another new all-time high, getting pretty close, starting to flirt with the $2,700 level, and silver well above $32 now. So good action in the precious metals. And we were discussing that about a year ago. You put out an article on mining discovery. I think it was in October of last year. So you were looking at some of the trends that you thought would play out in the metals. And I've got to tip my hat to you, James. Things are playing out very much the way you anticipated. Why don't you walk us through the big picture look on where you thought things would develop and how it's playing out?
Yeah, thanks, gentlemen. Thanks for inviting me on again. Yeah, that's very kind of you. And it is nice to be able to, predict something when it actually comes true. I did kind of go out on a limb last year. The article was published on October 18th. I think you guys are going to try and share that with your audience so they can, go back and have a look. But I predicted, specifically the bottom in gold, but, by inference, the bottom of gold and silver. Silver is always more volatile, so a little bit, trickier to call that. But knock on wood, I look pretty smart here right now, but I did call the bottom in the metals at that time last year, and I detailed in the article 4 different reasons for that, and that was monetary, fiscal, social, and technical. Certainly from a monetary standpoint, what I talked about then was the rapid rising of interest rates and the anticipation of lower interest rates. That's taken longer than I would have thought, and only just last week did we get a first Fed cut. In Canada, of course, the Bank of Canada is a little bit ahead of the Fed in this cycle, and so the Bank of Canada has already cut rates, but it is after the first cuts and through the easing cycle, that is when historically the precious metals actually perform best. So I think right on time, we're having gold and now silver go through important technical levels, and with the price of gold right through, I think it's 30 out of the last 36 days that it's hit a new all-time high or something. So that's very important. Fiscal policy, in the United States, but also everywhere around the world, governments continue to print up money that they do not have and spend it on stuff that they do not need. And that is never very good for the value of fiat currencies. And it is very good for precious metals in, counter to that. Social trends, I talked last year about a mood, a feeling that the world wanted war. And I think 12 months later, you would say, yep, they're getting exactly what they want in many, many different quadrants. And I don't think that that's over. I think that there's a mood towards solving problems militarily. And I anticipate that those sort of things spreading. And of course, there's very few things that human beings do that cost more money than going to war. And then from a technical standpoint, I felt last year that it was relatively easy to identify the bottoming pattern in gold, especially. And today, silver has broken out through a very, very important chart pattern. And I anticipate that silver over the next several weeks will go another couple dollars higher. And of course, Guanajuato Silver is a precious metals company. About 90% of our revenues comes from gold and silver, mostly from silver. And obviously, this sort of action on the metals is very, very good for our revenue.
So, James, from the technical aspect of comparing gold and silver, we keep hearing that silver's in a way lagged this move in gold, but it can play catch up very quickly. Look, the gold price, the gold chart on really any time frame is doing extremely well. Silver is doing well on the shorter time frame, but again, it's that longer time frame chart that people point to and say it's still way off of its highs. How do you balance out that longer term component of the technical analysis when you're looking at gold compared to silver?
Well, silver is an odd beast. I mean, it can be so volatile. And, certainly there's a lot of people who've commented, well, silver is still way off of its all-time highs. For whatever reason, I just view that the all-time high of around $50 in 1980, and even another all-time high, which basically ran to $50 as well, I believe in 2011. I just look at those as sort of statistical outliers. And so is silver going through all-time highs right now? No. But I think that the chart pattern over the last, oh, I don't know, 8 or 10 years leads me to believe that silver can have even greater momentum and can at some point outperform gold. That was always our thesis. We have not been correct yet, but I believe that this may well be the start of silver outperforming gold. Maybe we can have a silver to gold ratio at 70 or even 65. And I think that that would change things dramatically for the way people think about silver and for the way people value companies like Guanajuato Silver.
Well, and even today, James, we're seeing gold up about 1%, but silver's up about 4.6%. So it is starting that outperformance. Hopefully we see more of that in the days to come. But with silver at 32, maybe a comment on just the silver producers as a sector, and then what it means to Guanajuato Silver as we see each dollar get added to the silver price. If we go to 33, 34, 35, the leverage that silver companies can have as margins expand.
Well, and as you guys know, especially, we've talked about it on the show many times in the past, there's not very many silver producers. First of all, there's not very many companies that have silver in their names. And of those, very few are actual primary silver producers. There's a lot of, the bigger ones that are actually more gold companies than silver. And the smaller ones, produce a lot of lead, zinc, and silver in Mexico. And a lot of the smaller companies are really base metal companies with a silver component. Guanajuato Silver is different. We do have a small base metal component to our revenue. The lead and zinc component is less than 10% of our revenue, but we've got charts up on our last quarterly statements regarding the revenue, but about 45% silver and about 45% gold, but it's more silver, so maybe it's 50 and 40 and 10 in favor of silver. So we're one of the few companies around where when you buy Guanajuato Silver, you're actually buying a primary silver producing company.
James, what do you hear from shareholders about that then? Or even people looking at the company to take a position? Because you're right, a lot of silver producers, a lot of silver stocks really are focused on kind of those silver bugs. Have you seen interest from other type of investors saying that I need more exposure to silver?
Very little. That's just starting right now. And in terms of what shareholders and what observers say about Guanajuato Silver, I think it's very similar to what they're saying about a lot of other companies in the sector, Corey. They're saying, show me. We've been doing this for a few years. We've built what we like to call Mexico's fastest growing silver mining company. It's been really hard over the last few years because despite all of the positive action that we're talking about, things were negative for a long time. Raising money was very difficult. So putting these mines for Guanajuato Silver back in production was tough. And shareholders are looking at the company, I think, and saying, okay, well, so show me, does this work with these type of prices? How much money are you making? And, I think it's really about show me. And so that's what Guanajuato Silver has to do for the market and for shareholders in the months ahead and in the quarters ahead.
Well, James, let's dive into that just a little bit further. In the last couple interviews, we've kind of did a deep dive into a lot of the equipment that you're putting in place, from new filter presses for lead and zinc to looking at ore sorting at one of the mines, looking at optimizing some of the other mines, pumping out some water in some. There was a lot of initiatives the company's been on at Guanajuato Silver over the last, let's say, 2 quarters. Now we've had a pretty good third quarter of metals prices, and people are interested in seeing the all-in sustaining costs start to come down and revenues go up. What can you tell us as far as the way things are shaping out as far as from a high level on the Q3?
Well, I can tell you, like almost every physical project in the Western world these days, they always take a little bit longer and cost a little bit more money than you think going in. Our ore sorter at San Ignacio is a really good example. You've seen pictures of that installation. It's very impressive. It's, again, taking a little bit longer than we thought. One of the reasons was because it was held up in port, just from a customs perspective, for about 45 days, longer than we had anticipated. But we are anticipating real production from that ore sorter mid-October. So a lot of these things won't really start to kick in until the fourth quarter, but I'm very excited about that, about the new filter presses at Topia, and a number of the different initiatives that we started maybe 4 months ago.
To your show me point for investors. Look, the company needs to make money and continue paying off debt, but that ties into a recent news release where you did pay off an OCIM loan in full. This was a US $7.5 million silver and gold prepayment facility. This comes from a Swiss-based precious metals trading firm. This was all for the initial financing of the El Cubo mine and milling facility. How will this impact financial performance moving forward for the company then?
Yeah, okay, so appreciate the question. It has been tough over the last few years. We do have 4 mines, 3 processing facilities. That doesn't come for free. We borrowed some money early on from OCIM. That it's a French and Geneva-based family office, really, Corey. And they worked with us, through the expansion, and we're very, very helpful in allowing us an extended period of time to repay that loan. But we've repaid that in full just as of a couple of weeks ago. That loan, as is our other loan to Ocean Partners, it is denominated in metal. So we owed them a certain amount of gold and silver every month. With regards to OCIM, that's been repaid. But from sort of a mark-to-market basis, it's $550,000 a month that we no longer have to repay. So that's going to alleviate that bottleneck of our cash flows and allow us to direct more money towards making the business better and towards expanding our production. The only other outstanding loan that we have is with Ocean Partners. Those are the guys who we sell the vast majority of our concentrates to. We have a very good relationship with them. They are equity holders as well as debt holders. We started repaying a 30-month loan that we had established with them in June. The last few months, because we've been repaying them and OCIM, it's been a little tough in terms of cash flows. But because of eliminating the one loan, that opens things up with our cash flows. So that's how we shape up into the future, and we will continue to try to accelerate those loan repayments as we go forward.
Well, James, this may be a good spot to talk about future growth in the company. I've had a couple people ask me, and at Beaver Creek, I had 2 people ask me directly, where do you think the growth in Guanajuato silver is going to come from? And my simple answer was, well, first of all, it's optimization of the mines they have and getting more from it. So things like the ore sorting and putting more throughput through the mills, but also you have the ability to do exploration, and we don't talk about that as often, but there's probably other areas that you could mention as far as where you think things will continue to grow for the company moving into the future.
Yeah, so I think I would have answered the question in a very similar fashion. There is ample room for us to grow organically with our current operations. There's certainly in these mines that are, 100 or 450 years old, with regards to Valenciana, there is no lack of places to go and look for more ore within those mines. So we continue to do that. We'll have exploration news coming out over the next several weeks and months as well. But I guess the other way to answer, we are called Guanajuato Silver for a reason. When I first went to Guanajuato about 5 years ago, what I thought that I recognized was one of the great silver mining camps of human history, but that the ownership of the claims and the mines had been divvied up into a number of different people. There is several different opportunities for us, I think, in the future. Nothing imminent particularly, but to continue to consolidate the Guanajuato district, I think that has to be a focus for us, and we will do that opportunistically and making sure that it is accretive to Guanajuato shareholders as we do it.
All right. Well, we'll keep our eyes peeled for more news as it comes out as it relates to either exploration or possibly being able to bolt on other projects or other opportunities into the stable of Guanajuato Silver. And if people listening in want to follow along with the news flow, definitely click on the link below this interview. It takes you right over to the company website, straight to their news section, so you too can follow along with the news as it's released to the wires. James, keep us posted. We'll get you back on for an update. And as always, looking forward to our next conversation.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for the opportunity, gentlemen.